What's up guys, today I'm going to be showing you my Integer deck profile, and I did throw in a couple Cyber Dragons and 2 QuickDraw Synchrons because this is both an OTK and a rank 5 build with the Infinity, and but also OTK as in like I run Power Bond, and I also have the 2 limiter removals since they're semi-limited over here in the TCG, so in a sense it can kind of go first. Just depending on the hand you have. I'll explain the card choices later. But other than that, this is one of my favorite decks overall ever since the Arc V era, where we got a lot more support for the cards. And again, I'm going to be displaying them in the video, so let's get into it. Alright, so first we do run the 3 Integer Golems. The reason why we run 3 is because of a card called Integer Frame, but I will go into that in a bit. But for now, Integer Golem cannot be special summoned. And obviously if it attacks, like most Integer monsters, spell and traps cannot be activated. But with this guy here, if it attacks a defense position monster, it does piercing damage. So you may or may not find a defense position monster in today's format because it's all link based. But if you do, and it is a 3k beater, so if anything, if you do go up against a defense position deck, you most likely will at least inflict a little bit of damage to your opponent. And the reason why we run 3 Integer Golems is this card right here, Integer Frame. Basically, once it's on the field, you can discard 1 card, either add an Integer Golem from your deck to your hand, or a spell or trap that specifically lists Integer Golem in its text. And again, every other Integer has this effect when if it attacks, spell and traps cannot be activated. But what's even better about this card is if it leaves the field because of an opponent's card effect, you can special summon up to 3 Integer Golem or Integer Golem Ultimate Pounds from your hand, ignoring their summoning conditions. Which is even better because for the overall OTK method, if you do have the if you have the limiter removal on your field, so like once you have at least like 2 or 3 Integer Golems on your field, your opponent can't do anything. Your turn, you can activate limiter removal and just go for game because they're all 6,000 attack right there. Next is Integer Wyvern. Basically, this is the search card for each card that has Integer in its name. What I mean is that when it's normal summoned or special summoned, you can add an Integer card from your deck to your hand, but the only delay is that you cannot set cards the turn you activate this effect. And like most Integer monsters, if it attacks, your opponent can activate spells or traps during the battle phase. Our next card is Integer Hunting Hound. Now, why this card is needed in a deck is because, for one, when it's normal summoned, it does do 600 burn damage to your opponent, which isn't bad, but it does have a built-in fusion summon for Ancient Gears. Basically, while it's on the field, you can fusion summon an Integer monster using materials from your hand and field as fusion material. And why that's good is mainly because if you can't pull your Power Bond or your Overload Fusion, you can use Hunting Hound, at least for the Integer Howitzer, or if you're lucky, you have 4 Integers on your hand, in your hand and field. You can fusion summon into Chaos, Integer Golem, or the other Integer fusions, whichever you like. Alright, next off is our Integer Reactor Dragon. Basically, if this guy is tribute summoned using an Ancient Gear monster, it does piercing damage on defense position monsters, and if it's tribute summoned using a gadget monster, it can attack twice during each battle phase. Now, what's different about this one here is that monster effects as well as spell and traps cannot be activated from your opponent's side of the field when it attacks. And at the end of the damage step, if this card attacked, you can destroy a spell and trap on the field, which is nice in case your opponent has that 1 card you have to get rid of on the field. The next 2 I would consider the Integer Wyvern target package, being Ancient Gear Box and Ancient Gear Gadget. The main use of these 2 is you target Box with Wyvern's effect, and Ancient Gear Box's effect is you add an Ancient Gear monster with 500 or less attack from your deck to your hand, thus the reason why you'd run Engineer Gadget on the field. Or if you'd like it, you could always special summon it with the Engineer spell effects to activate Engineer Reactor Dragon's other effects, depending on what you feel your playstyle is. Like I said earlier, I do run 3 Cyber Dragons, mainly for the fusion plays with the fusion plays either with the Contact Fusion Chimeras or the Chimera Overload Dragon with Overload Fusion, depending on how many monsters are in my grave, how desperate I am to kind of run over my opponent's board with whatever I have left. If I do manage to pull Overload Fusion from my deck. And the Cyber Dragon Core, mainly to search out the Cybernetic Fusion support if I do want to combo off with Power Bond, or just that extra kind of desperate play if needed. And 2 QuickDraw Synchron for the rank 5 plays. Like I said, the only reason why I run this card is to either get out Cyber Dragon Nova to Infinity, or if it's in my hand or grave, I can easily just go for the Overload Fusion fusion summon, and since it does count as a machine monster for Chimera Tech Overload Dragon, and just see what happens from there. To dispose, I run 3 Integer Catapult. Basically, you must control no monsters to activate the first effect. Basically, if you control no monsters, you could target a face-up card you control, destroy it, and if you do, special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your deck, ignoring summoning conditions. And depending on the card you popped, you may also be special summoning an Ancient Gear monster from your hand or deck. Just depends what you popped and that card's effect when it is popped. And if this card is sent to the grave, actually no, if this card is in the grave, you can pop a face-up card you control and basically special summon an Integer token, and that could be good for the Cyber Dragon Contact Fusion or for the Reactor Dragon Tribute Summoning, depending on what the situation is and how you feel is necessary to use the card. One of the targets for Ancient Gear Catapult would be this card right here, Ancient Gear Fortress, but I wouldn't recommend it unless you're desperate, because during the turn they have normal summon or special summon, Ancient Gear, your opponent cannot target Ancient Gear monsters you control, and they cannot respond to the effects of Ancient Gear cards the turn they are activated. And basically, if it's popped in the Spell and Trap zone, you can special summon an Ancient Gear monster from your hand or graveyard. But the other downfall is that you can only special summon Ancient Gear monsters the turn you activate that effect. And for the field spell, we run Gear Town. Basically, both players can normal summon Ancient Gear monsters for 1 less tribute, and that could be really helpful if you do manage to get the Ancient Gear token with Catapult onto the field. That's just 1 less tribute, and you got your Piercer and your Spell and Trap Destroy and your card Destroyer right there. And if this one is destroyed in the field zone, you can special summon 1 Ancient Gear monster from your hand, deck, or grave. So yeah, the majority of the deck, the majority of the spells is popping themselves and just special summoning from there. For the fusions, I do run the 2 Power Bond. Again, this is Ancient Gear, so it's most likely going to be an OTK based deck. And obviously what Power Bond does, if not many are familiar with the card's effect, you can fusion summon using monsters you control or in your hand as fusion material. Its attack does become double its original attack, but during the end phase, here's the downfall of the card. During the end phase, you take that damage that monster gained. So basically for, say, Chaos Ancient Gear Giant, because its attack is 45,000, you can boost it up, but you can double its attack up during the summon, but at the end phase, if you do not manage to defeat your opponent, you will take that 45,000 to the face. And it has happened during the past where I almost beat my opponent, but I'm just 1,000 points off from going for game. And like I said, with the Cyber Dragon and long-term plays, I do run the Overload Fusion depending on what I have on my field. And grave, it's more like a light game kind of card, just hoping I have enough materials in the grave to hopefully summon out a good enough monster to kind of counteract my opponent's field. And like I said, for the for the Cyber Dragon core, I run the Cybernetic Fusion support, similar to how Overload Fusion works, but this time, but I do combo it off with Power Bond, because this isn't really a fusion spell. It's more you activate it if you fusion summon. This does allow you to banish material from your hand, field, or grave. Hand, field, or grave in the combination of, say, Power Bond. So instead of the hand and field, you could do hand, field, and grave. After you activate Power Bond, and just makes it a lot easier to get those big beaters on the field, like Ancient Gear, Chaos Dragon. No, Chaos Ancient Gear Giant. For the draw cards, I do love this card. It has helped me in so many duels. And again, like, you don't really spam the field with machine monsters. This card is actually perfect for Ancient Gears, I would say. You control exactly if you control exactly 2 machine effect monsters and no other monsters, you can draw 2 cards. But a lot of people may consider this a downfall, because you can only special summon once after this card is activated. But with Ancient Gear Power Bond and Ancient Gear Power Bond build, that's really no big deal, because if you do manage to draw the cards you need, then I mean, you could just go right from there. And it is a once per turn card, so, which makes sense. And for the rank 5 plays, I do run the 2 instant fusions, mainly for the Chimera, for the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon target, since it is a level 5, and I could just hopefully go into the rank 5 plays from there, or whatever works. And this is OTK based, so I do run the limiter removal, double the attack of all machine monsters you currently control at the end of this turn, but during the end phase, destroy them all. Usually you wouldn't have to worry about the final effect of destroying them all, because chances are, if you have a decent enough field, you're most likely gonna run over your opponent with the monsters you control already. And finally, the traps, Ancient Gear Reborn and DNA Surgery. Ancient Gear Reborn, basically you must control no monsters, and you can target an Ancient Gear monster you control in your grave, special summon it, and if you do, it gains 200 attack even if this guy leaves the field. It's not bad, but it hasn't really saved me a whole lot, unless you consider bringing back Ancient Gear Howitzer. Right, yeah. But its first effect says it is unaffected by the card effects, so I don't know if it can actually be a target for Reborn, but you could all look for that later. And DNA Surgery, in case you have the Cyber Dragon or Cyber Dragon core in the field, you can make everything a machine, including your opponent's field. So say if they extra link you, you can say, okay, well, fine, I'll bring out my Cyber Dragon core, make all your monster machines, contact fusion into, send them all to the grave, contact fusion into Fortress Dragon, make this card a who knows how much attack, depending on the number of monsters sent to the grave, say like, I don't know, 5,000 if you're lucky. The only issue is that it'd be a huge beater and it doesn't have any protection, but other than that, it has come in handy at times where there's a problematic field, and I was lucky enough to actually activate this card during that turn to go for game. Finally, the extra deck. I run 2 Ancient Gear Howitzers, easy to get out with either Overload Fusion, but most likely you'd use the Ancient Gear Hunting Hound to get it out with it on the field and 1 Ancient Gear monster in your hand. Basically, why it's so good is that it's unaffected by other card effects. During your main phase, you could burn your opponent for 1,000 damage, but you can only use that once per turn. And basically, the only way to kill your opponent to kill it is by running into it, which is why you'd most likely fuse and summon it into defense position. And basically, if it leaves the field because of its opponent's card effect, obviously by battle, because there's really no other way, you can special summon an Integer monster from your deck, ignoring the summoning conditions. So it's just another target for Integer Golem. The main boss monster of the deck, when it comes to the Engineers, is the Integer Chaos Giant. Does require 4 Integer monsters, but that's why the Wyvern, Integer Box, Integer Gadget kind of tag team works for this card in case you do need more Integer monsters in your hand. Basically, it must be fusion summoned, can't be special summoned by other ways, unaffected by spell and traps. Your opponent cannot activate. No, your opponent's monsters can't activate their effects during the battle phase, and it can attack all your opponent's monsters once each. And basically, you know, this guy does piercing damage as well. And if anything, it's a 4,500 beater. So if you use Power Bond to get this guy out, it is gonna boost itself up to 9,000. But after that, you can't activate limit or removal. Because because the reason why Power Bond works is because it's for the fusion summon, but after that, then it can't boost its attack anymore. Next is the Ultimate Integer Golem. Does require the Integer Golem himself and 2+ Integer monsters, which isn't hard with Integer Frame since you can easily just search Integer Golem from your deck to your hand. Similar from the original, does piercing damage in the defense position monsters. Spell and traps can't be activated. No, your opponent can't activate spell or traps during the battle phase. But if this card is destroyed, you can target Integer Golem in your grave, special summon it, ignoring the summoning conditions. So kind of similar to Catapult in the special summoning requirements. The only issue is that for it to be chances are it's not really going to be destroyed, since it is a 44,000 beater, or your opponent might kaiju it, depending on what deck you go up against. And like I said, I do run the Chimera Tech Rampage Dragon. I don't fusion summon into it, I just use it for the rank 5 plays. And with the Chimeras, I do run Fortress, over Dragon, and the new, well, not really new, he's kind of old now, the new Chimera Tech, I can't pronounce that, Chimera Tech Dragon, no, Chimera Tech Mega Fleet Dragon. Basically, Contact Fusion, Overload Fusion, extra monsters on Contact Fusion. What I like about Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon is that obviously when you Contact Fusion using the machine type monsters on the field, again with DNA Surgery, gains 1,000 attack for every machine sent to the grave for this Contact Fusion. It can be used for fusion material, must be special summoned from the extra deck, obviously by Contact Fusioning, but other than that, it has no protection of itself, and it's just going to be a really big beater on the field, unless your opponent just effect veilers it, or a permanent, whatever they have. Mega Fleet, basically, it's similar to Fortress Dragon. This one requires monsters in the extra monster zone. So, and it does gain 1,200 for each monster sent, and you do require a Cyber Dragon. So basically, say you have a Cyber Dragon in your main monster zone, 2 extra deck monsters in the extra deck zone, in extra monster zones, and it could easily go up to about 3,600 attack, which isn't bad, but it's mainly here for clearing up the extra monster zones, depending on what your opponent may have. And Chimera Tech Overload Dragon basically gains, let's see, it does gain its original attack and defense is dependent on the number of materials used for the fusion summon, and it does gain 800 for each material. So say you have like 2 monsters used for the Overload Fusion, then it gains like 600 attack. But there was a point where I did power bond for this one, and it just doubled its original attack from 600 to from 16 to I think it was like 32. I can't remember. But other than that, they're not bad. This one helped me go for game. This one basically helped me get rid of my opponent's problematic fusion monster, like the Dark Magician, Dragon Knight. Me and my friends always duel, and his Dark Magician card was always so annoying to get over. But until I got this card, and I just kept taking it away from him. And Fortress Dragon, it's somewhat of a kaiju, but not really. But overall, it's good for clearing the field if you do manage to get DNA surgery on the field. For the rank 5 monsters, I do run number 61, mainly for the burn damage I could possibly do to my opponent, depending on what monster they have on the field and what can be targeted and destroyed. The only issue with this card is it can't attack during the turn you activate this burn effect. So basically you target a monster your opponent controls, destroy it, they take that much damage, but it can't attack directly after that. I'm not saying this is a card that could actually go for game, but at the same time, it is nice to go to like main phase 2, depending on where your opponent's life points are, and if you're lucky, you can target a problematic card they control and just destroy it and hopefully whittle their life points or actually win the game right there. And again, for the rank 5s, I run Cyber Dragon Nova, and basically just use him to climb the ladder into Cyber Dragon Infinity to kind of stop my opponent from activating spell trap or monster effects and kind of control the game from there. Or I can just go for game with limited removal. But other than that, it's not bad in today's format, but at the same time, they're just monsters. There are cards out there that are just more problematic than Infinity now. And Cleave for Genius, just to I don't really use it for its effect. I just use it for the link arrows. If I'm actually lucky enough to get that many monsters on the field, to link summon 2 machine monsters. And basically, if 2 machine monsters are special summoned to both its arrows at the same time, you can add a level 5 or higher monster from your deck to the hand, which is nice for another target for Enchigear Golem, Enchigear Reactor Dragon, and all those other monsters. But that's actually my deck profile. I don't have a side deck. It's more of a your guys' opinion thing of what you guys would run for the side deck. But other than that, that's basically it. So I hope you enjoyed and have a good day.